Personally, my business has been built almost entirely based on relationships. And so it's rarely a hard sell. It's build a relationship over time. And ultimately it leads to, opportunities. And so, like everybody else, most good salespeople, I should say, I try and refer out, probably 10 times as much business as I ultimately get back.
Welcome to the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Show. Whether you are an active or passive investor, we'll teach you how to scale your real estate investing business into something big.
Justin Mullen is the president of Hyatt Commercial. He runs a full-service commercial real estate firm based in Maryland. Justin, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I'm absolutely great, Justin. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic.
Awesome. Justin, there are 3 questions I ask every guest who comes on the show. In 90 seconds or less, can you tell me, where did you start, where are you now, and how did you get there?
Absolutely. Like every good entrepreneur, I started by selling lollipops in elementary school. An entrepreneur at heart. I got into real estate in January of 2008, commercial real estate, I should say. I was in residential for a few months prior to that. Some of you might remember that was a pretty tough time to be in real estate. I was a third-party broker for, 10 years, continue to be a third-party broker to this day. And really was focused on, just servicing, office, industrial, flex, clients in Central Maryland, for a regionally based brokerage company. About 5 years ago, I left that company and moved over to a more boutique brokerage company that had some, property management division and had a small portfolio of assets that was owned by the family that originally founded it. I was brought on to run and kind of re-energize the brokerage company at the time. That was roughly 2017. We grew from, give or take, 5 agents, including myself, to today we have 18 of us. About 2 years ago, I, along with one of my partners, my operating partner on the property management side of the company, and one of the, call it, founders of Hyatt Commercial, we purchased the company away from a community bank that had owned it. There's a long history of that, but the community bank was founded by the son of the founder of Hyatt. And so it operated as a entity of the community bank for probably 10 plus years. We purchased it away and merged with 3 other operating companies to form the Reliable Group, which is what we run now, which is a full service firm, brokerage, property management, land development, general contracting services. And we started a residential division, all of which provides third-party services, primarily to third-party clients, but we also have a significant portfolio of land holdings and assets through the related entities and operating companies.
That's a lot
going on there.
It's a lot of moving pieces. Do you feel like this was you just being in the right place at the right time, or were there some really strategic steps you took to get, all the way down to, merging with 3 other companies? That's, you don't go looking for that. I can't imagine.
Yeah, a little both. When I left the previous company that I was with for 10 years doing, strictly just third-party brokerage services, I left specifically for the reason of being able to grow and build a business and, to a certain degree, become a competitor of my previous company. They, in my opinion, a best-in-class operator. Geographically, they were targeting a different area, kind of what my specialty was. So when I left there, that's what I was trying to do, was to kind of create a similar style company. And then COVID hit in 2020, and really the opportunity arose out of that. I had a long-standing relationship with the companies that we've ultimately merged with. I actually took them a deal to sell, which is the office building that I'm sitting in now. And in the process of selling them an office building, we got to talking about what their plans were with their businesses, what my plans were with our businesses. And it took us, 9 months or so to kind of get through the transaction. But the fact that the world had kind of shut down and the brokerage company certainly had slowed significantly, led to a really unique opportunity to buy the company away from the bank, at a time when it was, right for buying. So it was a little bit of both great timing, but also it was something that I went looking for to achieve that.
And in the last 5 years, it sounds like, previously it was strictly brokerage, but you've become, it sounds like a blend of investor and broker at this point.
Yeah, we, as we've grown the companies, we service what I'll call an informal family office. So a lot of the, call it assets that are, they're not owned by the companies, they're owned by separate entities, but we service those assets. And so it's a good foundation, for all of the service companies. And the families that have come together to form that operate very large, companies in construction and construction materials. And so they've got significant land holdings in addition, to, current assets. So we've always got something in the pipeline that we're either developing or doing a value add to, or, our 18 brokers still primarily serve third-party clients.
How do you keep it all straight?
Good people and good relationships. That's the critical part is, our partners, came together and formed a really well thought out, ownership group. And so each division is actually set as its own company. It owns their own financials. And it really requires that everybody, is paying attention to, every dollar and cent. And you have to own your financial statements. So, there's no hiding, failures here or there. If you've taken ownership of it, you got to make the right decisions. And we've got good people to do that. So there's no single one of us that is in charge of everything or having to, keep track of every detail that's going on.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point, because you could very easily have one very productive side of the company covering for maybe one side of the business is not doing as well. I love the idea of and is that maybe what you'd recommend even if somebody is vertically integrated, to treat them all as separate businesses?
Yeah, I think it works really well for us. And again, previously when we were a management company and a brokerage company really under one financial combined, it was hard to tell who was, which of those companies was succeeding on their own. As we separated those financials, both our brokerage and property management divisions have exploded. I mean, we've grown, 2 and 3-fold in 2 years on both of those divisions. And part of it is that, you really take ownership of it at that point, and we're compensated based on that. So to me, it's one of the reasons that I enjoy the brokerage side of the business and running a team is that the team is self-motivated. You can't be in real estate and not be self-motivated, whether you're an investor, a broker, and so the same goes for the operators of each of our companies.
There has to be more things that you guys have put in place besides just, hey, you run your own your balance sheet's on you. Like what other things have you guys done to really motivate and inspire your team?
Yeah, well, two things there. I would say that, having good systems in place and using third-party resources, again, coming from a bigger shop where, at the time, again, I considered them a best in class, regional operator. They had great internal resources. How do you process commissions? How do you process new listings? How do you, underwrite, investment opportunities? And everything at the time that really been created in house. And when I moved over and started running my own shop, I started to try and create that stuff internally like using Excel models to, run something. And what I've discovered is that there's somebody that's all they do. And they have built a third party, a lot of times it's software as a service, systems that, we can implement overnight almost. And it doesn't cost us a ton of money to create the system. We just need to have the processes in place. So to me, the single most important thing for growth has been implementing good systems that allow us to take a lot of the administrative work and like shrink the time down to, a much more efficient process.
Is that something you are personally gifted in, or have you brought on team members that are able to implement and manage those systems? Especially, I'm thinking about the early growth stages. Like it's just a lot of massaging those, I would imagine, because at first, like you said, you built an Excel model and like, okay, this is inefficient, or maybe it doesn't work as well as it could.
Yeah. So the answer is most of the time I'm the one kind of investigating and trying to evaluate the quality of a resource.
Right.
And so initially, particularly the first 2 years of kind of creating this, or rebranding this brokerage company, I was having to be, neck deep in a lot of those resources and understand how they should be utilized. Fast forward a couple of years now, I understand them enough to say, hey, we need to be using this, but I've got an administrative assistant who's fantastic, and she really takes on that role most of the time.
Right. No, that's really cool. I mean, to have that skill set, it's something, commonly it's not a skill set I possess, is the operations side of things. Like I can get the ball rolling, but then once it's knee deep or neck deep into figuring out, how this connects to that, it's I just get overwhelmed. So having those team members, on board that are the kind of nerd out on that stuff, I think is really, really important. And especially down to the point where it's like, now I don't even know necessarily how the systems work. It's just, I know they work. It's like, okay, cool. Then that's, again, going back to, I think what you talked about earlier, which is building your business on relationships. Can you tell me a little bit about that and why you feel like that's so important to how you and your firm has developed?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because, talking about the administrative systems and how that kind of makes you more efficient, then I look at the other side of it, and the business development side of it is where our time really needs to be spent. And from a leadership role, I don't try and implement any one system fits all methodology with the team. Everybody has their own way of building their business. Personally, my business has been built almost entirely based on relationships. And so it's rarely a hard sell. It's build a relationship over time. And ultimately it leads to, opportunities. And so, like everybody else, or like most good salespeople, I should say, I try and refer out, probably 10 times as much business as I ultimately get back. In the long run, that allows for, longevity and success and stability. I'm not doing the 400,000 cold calls in 24 months that I've heard some of your other guests doing. Now I've got people on the team here that they do have systems like that. And it very much was, how many calls do I make? How many meetings do I get? And having a very clear path to success. And my number one agent, I would say, was more structured that way than myself. And he's succeeded very quickly at a young age. So everybody has a different way of doing it. But for me and for our team as a whole, even our investment opportunities really come through relationships where, somebody's got a piece of land. We've got, at any given time, we're actively developing 10 to 15 different projects and probably looking at another, 15 to 20 from a high level. Like, should we focus on this? And they all come through relationships.
That's a lot. That's a lot of moving pieces. I think you phrased this to me before we kicked this episode off, and you said you are relationship driven versus opportunistic, and I think that's a very as an investor, I think that's how we were talking about that, and I think that's a very different take on hey, I'm an opportunity investor. You said no, I'm relationship driven. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think a lot of investors, claim to be opportunistic. And what that means to me is that they think that there's an opportunity to get a better deal than the next guy or get a better deal than the guy is buying it from. And certainly we like to, get great deals too, but those deals, you either have to be making, again, thousands of cold calls, to find that one opportunistic deal, or you build relationships and people bring those deals to you. And so, we may not squeeze every single dollar out of a deal, but we ensure that the next time that partner or seller or, end user, whichever it may be, that's asking us to develop something or go in on it with them, is coming back to us to ask us to do it again with that. And so that's why I say it's relationship based rather than just opportunistic.
I like that. I like that a lot. I'd love to hear your thoughts here. We've got about 4 minutes left. And before we sign off, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the broader market, what you guys are seeing. I know you've mentioned development. Maybe talk to us a little bit about what you guys are developing and kind of where you feel opportunity lies in today's market.
Yeah, for us, it's kind of about creativity. We don't have a box. There's no box that we have to fit in. Again, it usually comes to us through a relationship, but we've got, we're certainly, we are optimistic about, call it neighborhood, grocery anchored retail, even smaller retail. We just finished, 2 10,000 square foot retail buildings. They kind of shadow a bigger development. And we pre-leased those before the base buildings were done, which, 3 years ago, nobody would have thought you'd be pre-leasing, retail.
Right.
We've got another 20,000 square foot kind of neighborhood center that's in a very rural area. And we're 75% pre-leased on that. We haven't even gone vertical on that yet. We've got a grocery anchored center that we're in development on that, once we lock down a grocer, that's going to do very well. Because of what I'll call sister companies, I didn't get into it, but we've got some sister operating companies that are in heavy industrial. So we've got 4 or 5 heavy industrial projects under contract, throughout Virginia right now, that we, really like as a long-term hold. And again, it could be, these are locations, they could be industrial outdoor storage. They could be, lay down yards. They could be vertical development with buildings on them. We just know that the industrial world is shrinking while the, demand is expanding. And so, controlling the land is good. And then, again, I'm not a doomsday office person. There's a lot of people out there right now that are saying office is dying. And I think in certain locations, office is going to really struggle. I think that the big corporate world is going to be the hardest to get back to the office, but in our kind of tertiary, suburban, urban location, like Annapolis, Maryland, like Richmond, like Columbia, Maryland, office is doing pretty well. People want to work closer to home. And so value add opportunities in the office world is something that we're eager to look at as well.
That's awesome. Justin, you got your hands full. I certainly appreciate it. If you would rewind the last, I guess 18 to now, what is that? It's 15, 16, something like that years, not even quite, about 14 years. Tell me, what are some things, if there's one thing you could do differently, what would it be?
Just do everything faster. There's very few things that the longer I thought about it, had more opportunity. When you think about a good idea, pick up the phone and act on it. Whether it's an investment opportunity, a business development opportunity, procrastination is the enemy. One of the things I've done very well is surrounding myself with people that act quickly, at every level of the company. So to me, that's the biggest mistake I've made over the years is not just picking up the phone and moving as quickly as I can.
I like that. And I think you answered my second question, which is what is one thing, that you feel like you've done really well? And I think you may have given the answer, but just in case you have a different answer.
Yeah. Surrounding myself with good people. putting the right people in place and having being able to look at the industry and business from a macro level and kind of how all of the moving pieces work together, and then having really good people that are individually looking at the micro level, dealing with the individual pieces and making sure they work.
I love it. I love it. Justin, thank you for taking the time to come on the show today. I certainly appreciate it. If our listeners want to get in touch with you or learn more about you, what is the best way to do that?
HyattCommercial.com, based out of Annapolis, Maryland. Yeah, the Reliable Group is the parent company. You can look up either one of those online and find us.
Awesome. Justin, thank you again. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you.